All right, it is the midseason NBA Power Poll. Can't believe we're here taping this at 10:30 on a Thursday morning. Hopefully there will be no more trades. We're going to go from 30 to 1. Worst team to best team. First category is the dregs. We have 5 teams that are absolutely terrible, that have a -9 or net or worse, which is kind of impossible. It reminds me of the cocaine era in the 80s when they were just like 5, 6, 7, just horrible teams every single year. Going in order. Number 30, Detroit. They're 4-37. Number 29, Washington. They're 7-32. Number 28, Charlotte. 8-30. Number 27, Portland. 11-29. And that might be 11-59 in about 30 games. And then last but not least, San Antonio. They're number 26 for me. 7-33. I want to talk about Detroit quickly. Monty Williams, $80 million. I think it's a main reason why Spoelstra ended up getting 120 from Miami, because he was like, they gave that guy $80 million. I'm at least like twice as good as that guy. The Jaden Ivey year that kind of unfolded for the first 6 weeks of the season, where he didn't have the ball nearly enough. They were playing Killian Hayes in a ball handling spot over him. He was kind of standing to the side, even though he can't really shoot. Monty should have to give back like $20 million of the money just for how he treated Jaden Ivey for about 6 weeks there. Now Ivey's getting going. They have some pieces I got to say, I have not crossed them off my league pass yet. I still kind of enjoy watching them. Isaiah Stewart came back. The Marvin Bagley trade was hilarious to me. This is one of my favorite NBA things, when they give somebody a stupid contract over the summer. I mean, it was like $13 million a year. Who you're competing against for Marvin Bagley? And then 6 months later, they do a trade where they have to give second-round picks to get rid of the Bagley thing. And then to the media, it's like, well, now we have $60 million in cap space. For who? You're the Pistons. You suck. Nobody wants to play for you. And you just had to attach second-round picks for a stupid signing that you should have done in the first place. How does everybody have a job there? Like, what else do you need to do to get fired? Not that I'm advocating for people to get fired, but everyone in the Pistons should get fired. They should have dealt Bogdanovich last year. He is one of the best pieces now, and this is going to be ring around the rosy. There's only a couple teams that need wings. He's the perfect price range. He's in the 20s now. Bruce Brown's on Toronto. There's guys out there in Philly. Philly's probably the biggest one that's going to be going after like a swing, somebody making between 15 and 20, but Miami's in the mix. Like, they should deal Bogdanovich now before a couple of these guys go. I don't know what they're doing. If I was a Pistons fan, I would be out of my mind with how this season has gone, because they're paying the most money to the coach who doesn't know what he's doing. All right. Next, on number 27, Portland, quickly. I'll buy your Scoot stock if you're selling it, but it does make you wonder, should they have just traded the number 3 pick and got an impact guy and kept Dame and kept Grant and actually try to be good, because the West is so wide open. So I went down that thought road and I just couldn't come up with what the trade was. Like, the number 3 pick for Anunoby, I just don't think Toronto would have done it. I think they valued him. Jaylen Brown, Boston probably doesn't do it. Maybe Siakam. The value of that number 3 pick was somewhere around those guys. Did those guys make a difference? I think they probably ended up in the right place. We'll see with Scoot. But it just is an interesting sliding doors for them. All right, next category is the year from hell. That's obviously Memphis. They are somehow 15-25, even though every single thing has gone wrong for them. They did stumble into this G.G. Jackson guy, who I had never heard of, obviously. I knew he was a second-round pick. Did some research on him, though, and he was the number 1 overall guy in the class of 2023. And he was supposed to go to North Carolina, and he reclassified and ended up in the class of 2022. Goes to South Carolina for a year. I guess the season didn't go that well because they ended up going 45th. This seems to happen over and over again. These pedigree guys. Derek Lively's a little bit like this on the Mavs too. These guys that are like clearly top 5, top 3, maybe even top 1 in their high school class, like 9th, 10th, 11th grade, maybe even in 12th grade. Then something weird happens to them in college for a year. They go to the wrong team or they get hurt. And then all of a sudden they fall into like the 30s and 40s. G.G. Jackson, I'm watching this guy. With that said, Memphis is very close to being on my league pass cross-off list, which right now includes Washington, Brooklyn, Memphis maybe, unless G.G. Jackson turns into young Amari Stoudemire. And I got to say, I can't watch San Antonio. I know they have Wemby. I know he is an absolute unicorn. I know he does stuff every game. But guess what? That's what YouTube is for. That's what Twitter's for. That's what your friends texting you a video is for. I don't have to watch the Spurs games to get a Wemby fix. That team is a disgrace. I can't believe that's the team they're putting around Wemby. I can't believe it. What are you doing? You have like a once in a generation dude, and the roster he has is the worst roster in the league. And they don't even really have cap space, which I don't understand. Anyway, Wemby, if you ever do anything good, guess what? I'll see it on social media. I'm not watching the Spurs. Next category, trade machine mercenaries. Well, Toronto's already traded Anunoby and Siakam, and they've turned those guys into Quickly and RJ Barrett and Bruce Brown and 3 first-round picks, including 2 in this upcoming draft that everybody seems to absolutely hate and is comparing to 2013 and 2000. I still didn't mind the trade because Siakam was going to leave. Anunoby's doing really well in the Knicks, but I like what they got back. They had to change their identity. They're 16 and 25 right now. Can they flip Bruce Brown? Or will Bruce Brown be really fun in the Siakam role? I love Bruce Brown. We'll get to him later. Should they trade Pirtle? Brown's at $22 million. Pirtle's at $19.5 million. If they trade Brown, they can't put anything else with it. But they could do stuff like they could trade Brown to the Knicks for Fournier's expiring and 1 first, 2 first, whatever. They could trade him for Andrew Wiggins and some sort of pick swap. I keep saying this, Andrew Wiggins is from Canada. Or keep Bruce Brown, or this is what pisses me off. I know he's going to end up in Philadelphia. Can somebody else trade for him before he ends up with Philadelphia? It's super easy for Philadelphia to get him. They got Marcus Morris. They can add 1 more contract. Just take Bruce Brown back. He's the perfect guy for the Sixers if they don't have to give up anything in their core. Ultimate glue guy. I loved what he did on Denver last year. I hope and pray that Philly doesn't get Bruce Brown. Next trade machine mercenaries, Brooklyn at number 23. They're 16 and 24. And then last but not least, Atlanta at 17 and 23. I think the James Harden for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, a 23 first and a future 27 first top 8 protected is edging up the ladder of worst deals of the last 10 years. Oof. I look at their team. They don't have their pick because it's going to Houston. Their keepers, Mikal Bridges, and probably Cam Johnson, and there's a little pricey. Their trade assets are Finney-Smith, O'Neal, Claxton, and Dinwiddie. And there's a little hesitation like, what are we? We don't have our pick. You don't want to tank. You know what? The move is to be sellers. You can't even, the pick's gone. They already went through this with the Tatum pick and the Brown pick. Just the draft sucks. Just trade. Trade Finney-Smith. He's at 13, 14, and 15. Trade O'Neal. Maybe trade Nick Claxton. Maybe somebody wants Dinwiddie. Get rid of all these dudes. I think they should trade Claxton to OKC because OKC desperately needs a big guy. Flip Finney-Smith to Philly for a pick. Send O'Neal out for a pick. Just bottom out. Your roster stinks, and it's not fun to watch you guys. So don't worry about that. You don't have a pick. And then Atlanta, who knows what's going to happen with Murray? Everybody knows he's been available for a month. I think it'd be hilarious if he went back to San Antonio, which would be, I think, the first ever return to sender trade we've had. Atlanta gave up 25, 27 firsts, a 26 pick swap, and a future Charlotte first, plus an expiring for Murray. Can they get 70% of that back? If you're San Antonio, you're feeling good. We sent this guy away for a couple of years, got Wembanyama, and now he's coming back. I don't know where he ends up, and I'm not positive how good he is because I haven't loved how he's looked at Atlanta, and I don't know whether it's Trae Young's fault or it's the wrong team or what's going on, but the guy who used to be a defensive stud, the eye test is not backing that up this year. So I don't know what happens with him. KOC was saying trade Trae Young to San Antonio for picks. I kind of like that idea. At least it would get me to watch San Antonio. Next category is yikes. Golden State just had a terrible tragedy this week too. They lost their assistant coach, and it's just like one thing after another with that team. I have no idea what they're going to do at the trade deadline because Wiggins has almost given himself negative value where you have to attach something just to get rid of him. That's how dark it's gotten for Wiggins. Kuminga, I talked about this on the podcast last week. He made his own bed 2 weeks ago when he was complaining to the press when he's 21 years old. He's done jack shit in his career. You shouldn't be talking to the press. Settle down, Kuminga. Clay's on an expiring, and you're stuck because he's a statue guy, and he's literally a statue if you watch him. Like he just doesn't have the same mobility. And I don't really know what the move is, and they just actually feel done to me. Like, I don't think there's any coming back. I don't think there's a scenario where they could crack the top 4, upset somebody in round 1. I just don't see it. I think they don't see it. Got me thinking, what happens if Charlotte calls them and Godfather offers them for Steph? And I know Golden State will say no. I know he's one of the most untradeable guys we've had this century. But let's talk it out. What if they offered LaMelo and they offered Hayward's expiring and they offered them 4 unprotected first for Steph Curry? Now you'd say, why did Charlotte do that? Well, Charlotte's been a disaster as a basketball franchise, basically in any incarnation of it. Steph Curry from Charlotte, they bring back the hero. Now you have a building base. He becomes, maybe you promise him down the road, wink, wink, you'll get a piece of this team when you retire. And you just make him Mr. Charlotte. And then if you're Golden State, you get a reboot with LaMelo, the guy you should take it anyway, and a bunch of firsts. Maybe it's not 4 firsts, maybe it's 3 firsts. I was trying to figure out, it's a good who said no. Who would say no? Also, what's the offer that would make Golden State at least take a meeting? And I think it would be LaMelo and 4 firsts. They're not trading Steph. So when this gets aggregated, because this is the new world we live in, where they just aggregate a piece of something you said and not the actual context of it, I do not think the Warriors are going to trade Steph Curry. My point is, if Charlotte calls them and Godfather offers them for Steph Curry, I think they have a meeting at least. Where the hell are they going? What are they going to do with Steph Curry for the next 5 years of his career? It really feels like this is a mess. So anyway, that's how bad it's got for the Warriors. I'm making up Steph Curry trades. Next category, works in progress. Houston is 19-21, and the arrow is pointing down. Chicago is 19-23, and the arrow is pointing sideways. They are still minus 2.6 net rating. I have the Lakers at 18. They are 20-21. And those are the 3. I'm not positive where things are going with those teams. The Lakers have the pedigree, but, to be 500 for half of a season when your 2 best guys have been healthy the entire time is not a good sign. One thing that's funny with LeBron, I know we've talked about how they've been in the 20s offensive rating 5 of the 6 years he's been in the Lakers. And you hear people talk about, they got to get shooting. They got to get this guy. They got to get that guy. Well, there's a couple of things that nobody ever mentions with this. They're paying 2 max guys a combo of like $100 million a year when there's a salary cap. Really hard to have 3 guys. Look at what Phoenix did. Phoenix was able to cram the 3rd max guy. And now they're in, God only knows what's going to happen with that team, especially anytime Beal gets hurt. They just look like a mess. So you're gonna have to hit on the fringes, and you're gonna have some flawed guys. You're not gonna end up with Kyrie Irving. You're gonna end up with D'Angelo Russell. That's the way it goes when you're paying 2 $50 million guys. What's interesting is, especially the Laker fans I know, is like they just got to get some shooting around LeBron. Well, they had shooting around LeBron. Go look at the 3-point leaders. Beasley, he's 48% from 3 this year. He's 2nd in the league. He's making 3 a game for the Bucks. He was wasting away on their bench last year. They had Caruso. They won a title with him. He's at 41.5%. They let him go. KCP, they traded him for fucking Russell Westbrook. He's at 40.7% threes this year, 1.5 a game. They had Malik Monk. He's one of the best 6 men in the league. They had him on the team and had an unhappy season with him. And then he went to Sacramento and was immediately good. Even right now, Russell, 40.7%. Prince is at 38.5%. Maybe we're not asking the right questions. If these shooters are going on to thrive outside of LA, why is that? What's going on? Is it hard to play in the fishbowl of the Lakers? Is it hard to play where AD and LeBron, it's their team, and everybody else are these interchangeable dudes that end up in trade rumors the moment anything's going wrong? Look at Austin Reeves. He just signed this big, I think they gave him $56 million for 4 years. And the moment things go wrong, it's his fault. He's in every trade. And needless to say, he's not playing well. So I do wonder, and I don't think this is LeBron's fault, but it's the fishbowl that he brings. Some guys don't play that well in it. And then you're always looking at glass half empty instead of glass half full. And in this case, like, this team had good shooters. Malik Beasley's been an awesome offensive player this year. He didn't play last year. So what are they doing wrong? I think is a more interesting question than what do they need. All right, next category is the super fun crew. I got 17, Orlando. They're down to 22 and 19. No Franz. I'm not worried yet, but no Franz. You realize how Paolo and Franz dependent they are. Suggs has been my personal role guy, MVP, until Bruce Brown ends up on an awesome team. But it'll be interesting to see if they decide we're actually a little closer than people think. We're going to go make a move or just kind of play it cool for one more year. They do have some expirings and some stuff to trade. I have no idea what they're going to do. We'll see when Franz comes back. But to me, this is probably a play-in team, unfortunately. Number 16, Utah. Will Hardy. He's got to be the coach of the year. I don't. That team was like a giant buffet table of food. And it was like a brunch buffet table. So there's like some lunch on there and some breakfast and there's some fruit, but there's also oysters. And you're like, what the hell is this team? What am I supposed to put all this stuff on my plate? And none of it made sense. And then somehow he made sense with it. He now has Kessler on the bench, right? That doesn't make sense. Kessler is a really good young center, but for them, it makes sense. They play Sexton and Chris Dunn together. I didn't even know Chris Dunn was alive. And Chris Dunn has been rejuvenated, but they moved everything around. I never thought they were going to trade Markkanen. But all the lineup kind of rotation stuff they've done, the Celtics killed them. I have, unfortunately, every time I watch Utah, they play terribly or they underachieve. So I need to catch them on a good game. But I'll tell you this with Danny. I saw this with the Celtics. He'll zag when you think he's going to zig, and he'll zig when you think he's going to zag. People were thinking like he was going to trade for more picks. I actually think he'll use some of these picks and maybe try to get something, maybe use the Collins contract and attach a couple of picks to it and try to get an impact guy. Would not surprise me. I see you, Danny Ainge. Number 15 is Indiana. They're 23 and 17 and just made the big trade, Pascal Siakam. They traded Bruce Brown, who I thought played pretty well for them, and 3 first-round picks. 2 are this year. Neither of them is going to be an impactful pick. The 26 unprotected might be. The question is like, why do you do this? Why not just sign them in free agency? Well, the new NBA, you can only have 2 max contracts per team, basically. So they're saying, we want to use it. We have Halliburton, who's one of the best guards in the league. We have a really fun team to watch. We can upgrade from Bruce Brown to Siakam. And who else is going to pay Siakam $50 million a year? I think what's changed is in the old days, it's like, all right, big threes, big cities, the biggest teams getting the best guys. And now it's like there's 60 max contract spots, basically. Every team has 2 of them, including some of these teams that you wouldn't really pinpoint as being destination places. So Indiana's like, yeah, we'll trade for Siakam and we're going to be able to re-sign him because where the hell else is he going to go? Listen, he's a 23 and 7 and 5 guy for the last 5 years. He's durable. He plays 36 minutes a game. I had him, we did the Ringer 100. I think I had him 60th just because I think I was holding against him. If he's the best player in Toronto and they're 9 games under 500, that's his fault. And that's the thing with Siakam. If he's your best guy, you're going to go 16 and 25. But if he's your second best guy and he's playing with Halliburton, I like that for him. When was the last time we saw him with like a real point guard, like a slash and kick? It's like Kyle Lowry 30 pounds ago. So I like the trade for Indiana a little more than some people. Like I saw Harrell Bob on Twitter, wasn't a fan. I don't really care about the picks. The 26, maybe I care a little bit. I don't care about the picks this year. And Bruce Brown was, he had a player option and could get out of there anyway. So I like the thought of we care about Halliburton. We care about what we're building here. Let's go get a real guy. So they did. I like the trade more for Toronto, though, just for the record. Number 14, Sacramento. They're 23 and 17, and they're oozing some sort of panic trade vibe. They're one of those teams that they can have an awesome game against somebody, but you feel like they're going to lose in the last 2 minutes. Like the Phoenix comeback the other day was a perfect example. They're also like Kevin Huerter. You're making $16 million a year. Like, are you good or you're not good? Are you an 8th man or are you like a 4th man? What are you? Harrison Barnes, why are you making 17, 18, 19 for the next 3 years? Are you like a 9th man? Davion Mitchell, we spent a top 10 pick on you. Are you playable? It just feels like a trade where maybe they get one more big guy. Maybe they go get, like, they find Alex Caruso. But that's a wait and see team for me. I want to see what their trade is. But when I say panic trade, dumb trade, sometimes the worst trades are made by the teams that feel like they're a little closer than they are. And to me, even if they added one more really good guy to this team, I still would not put them in the top 4 in the West. So I'd be careful, Sacramento. Number 13 is Phoenix. They're finally starting to look relatively Phoenixy. I don't understand KD's clutch stuff at all. Like, his clutch numbers are abominable. 36%, 27% from 3. And it's been one of the reasons their record isn't better. And I don't know whether that he's just hitting a different point in his career or maybe the team around him not awesome. What's crazy is they're getting this insane Grayson Allen year. And they've gotten fairly healthy Nurkic, like certainly more healthy than I thought he was going to be. And they're still 22 and 18. So I think for them, I want to see what happens the next 3 weeks. You could tell me they're going to be 30 and 19 in 9 games, and I'd believe it. You could tell me they could be 26 and 26 in 11 games, and I'll believe it. We will see. I have no real interesting thoughts on Phoenix other than we will see. Next one, next category, maybe one move away. The New York Knicks, they are now 24 and 17. I love the Anunoby trade for them, and it was one of those, I thought they won the trade when they made it just because they got the best guy in it. But when you watched it for like 2 games, you're like, oh my God, they totally won this trade. And what's cool about him, first of all, you're putting him with this crowd that's really going to appreciate what he brings to the table. So you're getting the best possible version of him, right? He's going to be like, not only playing for a new contract, which they probably agreed to already, but he's showing off for the new fans. But the flexibility he gives them, like let's say they play Philly in round 1, right? Let's say it's like the 3-6 matchup, Philly versus the Knicks. Anunoby is the kind of guy you want to put on Embiid. People always think you guard Embiid with centers. You want to put somebody smaller on him who's strong, who can get up in his chest. Like the way Denver was playing him the other night was kind of stupid. It didn't make sense to me. You want, like the Celtics will throw Drew Holiday on him. They'll throw Jaylen Brown at him. They'll throw Tatum at him. And then they'll throw Horford at him and they'll give him different looks. Anunoby is somebody that could guard literally everybody in the Sixers. And then they play Boston, same thing. So that trade was just a home run for them. Really good one. And they still feel like one move away. I'll be interested to see if they can attach Randall and picks to anything. Would be kind of the home run swing for them. Number 11 is Cleveland. For me, they're 24 and 15. They've won 5 straight. And then you look a little closer and it's like, oh, they beat Washington, and San Antonio, and Brooklyn, and Chicago. Congratulations. They're 1 and 5 against the Celtics, Bucks, and OKC and Denver. Not great. But they're 9 and 3 without Mobley and without Garland. And it is interesting that Garland goes out and it solves some of the Mitchell Garland stuff that I think we've all seen last season and this season. And just keeping an eye on that team. Because it's clear they have redundancies and maybe one too many guys, and they just feel 2-for-1-ish to me from a trade standpoint. 24 and 15, though, I would not. That's one of those where you look at the standings, you're like, wait, what? Cleveland's 24 and 15. I certainly don't feel like they're a threat. New Orleans they have 25 wins. They're number 10 on my list. Their net rating is up to plus 4.7. And there's certain games, if you catch them on the right night, where they just have too much size and they just seem really big and overpowering. And you're like, holy shit, New Orleans. And then you could catch them 2 days later and they lose by 20 and they look completely discombobulated. This team's a work in progress. All of it's going to hinge on Zion. And where is he in April? Is he healthy? Is he relatively in shape? I don't know. I don't even know what the trade is for them. We did this last time. It's like, what do they need? They have talent at every position. I don't know what the move is. It should probably be a 3-for-1 for somebody, but I don't know who the one is. And it's not like they're going to win the title this year. So I'd probably not do anything with that team. Dallas is the one. They're 24 and 17. They got half of a completely normal Kyrie season. Shout out to Kyrie. We all like watching him play basketball, and we had no drama from you for 3 months. I loved it. They need to make a trade. I was wondering if this is a Bruce Brown team, maybe somebody bigger, but one guy short. I don't know if the Grant Williams thing has worked out for them. I wonder if that's somebody they would move on before the deadline. Sometimes he won't even play that many minutes, but this is a team you would not want to see in a playoff series. And it's also a team that could get swept 4-0 in a playoff series. But I think from a Kyrie standpoint, I did not like the signing, did not agree with it. And at least so far, it's been okay. With that said, next week he could give some interview and it could completely fall apart. But they're, I wouldn't call them a contender, but they're on the fringe and they're at least I'm not crazy about seeing Luka and Kyrie in a playoff series team. So that's a victory. And they also proved to us that tanking still works because they ended up with Derek Lively. They made us all mad last April, including me. And it ended up with that Derek Lively pick. So there you go. Next category, the veterans. Milwaukee. Look, they can't guard anybody. And you look at their defensive rating, which is 19th right now. That is a recipe for disaster in the playoffs. And you could go through any season. Find me a team that was 19th in defensive rating that won 3 straight rounds, much less 4. Giannis is plus 14.5 on off. I just want to mention that. You felt it last night. They got killed. It feels like he has a bigger burden than ever before with this team because Dame's stats are good, but he has nights where he just doesn't have it. And Giannis, night after night, who really feels like he's got an extra FU to him this year. I don't know what it stems from, but I just can't take them seriously with the defense. So we'll see if they can fix it. Middleton looks better. They got more to Beasley than I think they could have ever expected. Crowder came back, but I'm just dubious. Yeah, I know they beat the Celtics last week. I get it. They came out. Celtics were coming off an OT game against Minnesota. Milwaukee shot the lights out. The Celtics packed it at halftime. I'm not going to overreact to that one if that's okay. Number 7, Miami, which is too high. But as you know, I'm terrified of Miami at all times. And actually, you could really pick apart Miami. Miami's 24-17. They're 9-0 in their crappy division. They're in like the worst division of all time. So if they not for their division, they are 15-17. Not great. Jaquez, so he's been playing like 34 minutes a game for 10 weeks, basically. And let's say he finishes at 32 minutes a game for the season. He's hurt right now, but when he comes back, he's shooting over 60% true shooting as a rookie. So I went on a Basketball Reference and I was like, how many guys have done this? How many guys have played 32 minutes a game and shot 60% true shooting as a rookie? And it was 4 guys. Adrian Dantley, Hall of Famer. Bill Cartwright, multiple-time champion and top 3 pick in the draft. Buck Williams, who was awesome. I can't remember if he's in the Hall of Fame or not, but he was one of the best power forwards of the 80s. And Magic Johnson. Those are the 4 guys ever who have done that. This Jaquez thing kills me. I love watching him. I can't believe he's on Miami. It makes me so mad. If you wanted to drop that to 30 minutes a game, you could add Jalen Williams and DeAndre Ayton to that. But that's how good Jaquez has been. And if you watch Miami, they're just getting more and more comfortable running the offense through him. The problem for them is Kyle Lowry, who in his last 10 games, he's down to 5.4 points a game in his last 10 games, shooting 41%, 28% from 3. He's playing 24 minutes a game for them and just looks like he's run out of gas. I know he hurt his hand, but expiring contract just feels like a trade. There's been some Rozier buzz with them. It makes a ton of sense. Rozier is just a classic Miami guy. Plus, he's been in some big playoff games. He's playing well this year. Maybe it's something like Lowry and Nikola Jovic for a 27 unprotected first and Rozier and Book Knight. Maybe they try to get Nick Richards too, which I would encourage them to do because I like Nick Richards, but maybe you add it. Maybe now it's like a protected second first, but feels like there's a Charlotte-Miami trade there. And if they can turn Lowry into Rozier somehow, to me, that's the move. Their assets, they have their first this year. They owe one of 2 firsts next 2 years. Then they own their own first for the next 4. So they're doing something. If I'm Miami, I feel like I can make the finals. So I'm making trades. Last category, the contenders, Oklahoma City. I saw them in person against the Clippers. And it was the worst possible check game. It made me so sad. I'd never seen them in person. I was so excited. And they'd played the Lakers the night before. And it was one of those games. It was like the game Mike Evans had in the play. It was just like he had 5 thumbs. He just, you could see his confidence was gone. The Clippers were banging him. Tice was like jumping over his back for rebounds. It was just really bad. So Chet, let's have a second date. Give me a mulligan on that one and maybe look like Chet in the next game because he's been really good this year. I have him as rookie of the year. But it did illuminate that they have no protection for him at all if he's going to look like a rookie. They're going to have a playoff series in round 1, round 2, or round 3 where it's game 4 and Chet just looks like a rookie and he sucks. You can't then bring in the other Jalen Williams as your backup. You need a real center. They have to get Claxton, Jakob Poeltl, Clint Capella, even Nick Richards, Isaiah Stewart from the Pistons. They have to get protection for that dude. If they with all the picks they have, if they do nothing heading into this trade deadline and like we like our guys, like that's actually irresponsible. So I fully expect them to do something. SGA, by the way, plus 12.9 on off. And I actually thought cost them the Lakers and Clippers games. I don't know if you watched the fourth quarters, but was missing shots he almost always makes. He didn't seem 100% healthy to me. But there was that one play he beat Kawhi off the dribble and Kawhi kind of timed it and then had the old Kawhi leap and stuffed it. And it was the best play I've seen in person this year. I thought it was one of the best plays of the season. Nobody blocks Shea on that drive. He has all these different looks. Like sometimes he'll go to the right and then he'll drive with his left hand. So he goes into the guy. So he also gets fouled. He does stuff on his drives that nobody's doing. And Kawhi not only did he block it, but he kept it in bounds and started a fast break. It was incredible. That game was so good. I drove home and I did a short while driving in my car and almost veered into another lane. Anyway, number 5, Minnesota. They're 29-11. I have them slightly over OKC just because I just think Minnesota, if they played in a series, Minnesota would just have too much size over 7 games. Defensive rating, 1st. Net rating, 4th. I was thinking really fascinating moment for Karl Anthony Towns. So he's 22-9 this year. He's 51, 42, 89 percentages. So he's basically a 50, 40, 90 guy. Usage rates down in the 26 range. True shootings around 63. This season's been a big win for Towns. Like they played that awesome game against the Celtics last week, which was one of the best games of the year. And I kept waiting for Towns to do his usual dumb Town shit and pick up a foul 25 feet from the basket or throw the ball out of bounds or do all the like low hoops IQ stuff that he used to do in big games. And he just didn't. He was good. I feel like maybe he's figured it out. And if I had to psychoanalyze it, maybe having Edwards just clearly be the alpha on this team, maybe set things into place for him because he's really a number 2. We always knew he was a number 2. But the Edwards being a franchise guy so quickly has been, for 9 different reasons, the best things that ever happened to Towns. So I was thinking, I had Towns, if you separate all the number 1 picks since Tim Duncan and you separate it by yes, maybe, or no. Like, would you do it again? Yes. Would you do it again? Maybe. Or just no. There's been 10 yes guys. Wemby, Paolo, Edwards, AD, Kyrie, Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose. He's in there. I don't care that he got hurt. That was a great pick. Dwight Howard, LeBron, and Yao. You do Yao again. So 10 yeses. I have 8 no's. DeAndre Ayton, who I think was a maybe until this year, and even I'm out. I've sold my Ayton stock. I divested. Ayton, Fultz, Ben Simmons, Anthony Bennett, Greg Oden, Bargnani, Kwame Brown, Olowokandi. That's 8. So I got 10 yeses and 8 nos. And then there's 8 guys in the middle. And some of these guys have retired and I'm still not sure. So I'm putting them in the maybes. Cade, Zion, Towns, Wiggins, who might be veering toward the no. I mean, he did help the Warriors win the finals. Bogut, I stand by Bogut. That dude rebounded. He set great picks. He had some bad luck. He had bad luck injuries, like he broke his elbow that time. Bogut's almost a yes to me, but I put him in the maybe. Kenyon Martin, who's a borderline yes, but didn't quite get there. And that Denver contract he signed was abysmal. And then Elton Brand, who I think was on course to be a yes, but then he got hurt. Towns has a chance to be a yes, is my point. Right now, he's in with Cade and he's with Zion and Wiggins and Wall and Bogan and Kmart and Brand. There's some Wizards fans out there. It's like, John Wall's a yes. No, he wasn't. Towns has a chance to play off that list and actually go into the yes list of, I'm so glad we took that guy with the number 1 pick. So that's the moment for you, Karl Anthony Towns. You're in your late 20s. You've been in the league for a while. It's never going to look better than right now. Number 4, Philly, 26-13. Embiid. Look, I'm glad you had another great game against Denver at home. Can you play in Denver this year? Can you do that? That's all I'm asking. Just do it in Denver. Let's see that. Embiid's been the best scoring whatever in the league, and he's, one of the best scoring centers ever. And this team is really good, but they still need more. They have all these expirings. This, to me, seems like the most logical Bruce Brown team. It's a very logical Bogdanovich team. And they had the Marcus Morris at $17 million. They have Covington at 11. They have some other stuff they could package together. They could get frisky with Tobias Harris if they wanted to. I wouldn't. But they could add at least 2 people. And maybe it's Bruce Brown and Caruso. Maybe it's Bogdanovich and Caruso. But this team has a chance to win a title. And you know who's never won a title? Not just Joel Embiid, Daryl Morey. I think he's going all in on this one. That would be my guess. Number 3, LA Clippers, 26-14. I did a short on my YouTube channel about this because I was driving home from that OKC game and I was like, oh my God. Like, they literally looked like a finals team. I think Denver's going to make the finals, but this was the team I watched the other night is a team that could play in the finals. The unselfishness, they got good shots over and over and over again. Kawhi guarded Shea down the stretch when they needed a couple stops, and they were always, even if he got switches, they were still able to defend him. Tice and Plumlee, like, not awful. They just need guys to set picks and bang bodies and have their hands around the rim. And then Zubac is coming back in a couple weeks. But the crazy thing to me about this team, I thought when they made this trade, I thought it was one of the dumbest trades, even for the Clippers in their history. Harden just seemed like he was past his prime. They're betting on 3 older veterans to just figure out on the fly how to coexist and make each other better. And all of the history of the NBA said that this was not going to work. And yet so far, it's worked incredibly well. And I've been to a couple of the games now, and I'm just like, this works. I don't know what else to say. The shocking part is the usage, right? So Harden was 25 usage last year. He's 20 this year. It's a pretty big concession for him. George goes down 29.5 to 27.2, and Kawhi goes down 27 to 25.9. And usually when guys are sacrificing stuff, their stats are going to look worse, or they're going to have a little problem, kind of like what's happening in Westbrook. All their percentages, Harden's at 45, 42, 87. George is 47, 42, 91. Kawhi's at 52, 44, 88. These guys have gotten better by having the ball less. And when you watch them in person, it makes sense because Harden is like traffic copping out there. He's just like, the ball's flying around. It's the complete opposite of how he used to play. No, the ball doesn't really stick with anybody. I thought it was going to be a lot of iso ball stuff, and it's just not. But I was thinking about like sacrifice guys over the years that actually won titles. So you're going way back to like Earl Monroe in the 1973 Knicks, who could have scored 28 points a game, but really gave up stuff to play in that team and fit in. Robert Parrish was like that on the Celtics. Rasheed was like that in 2004 on the Pistons. Ray Allen in 2008 on the Celtics is an unbelievable example. Like, he gave up, I would say, 8 shots a game. Chris Bosh on Miami, Kevin Love on Cleveland in 2016. These guys, I'm kind of buying it. It feels like they're giving up stats and possessions because they see some sort of greater good. It's, to me, the biggest surprise that's happened in the NBA in the last couple of years. The team makes sense together. Now, could it go sideways tomorrow? Could somebody get hurt? Of course. And somebody probably will get hurt because it's 3 older players, but they really play well together. I got to say, this is the most fun Clipper team they've ever had. And I am somebody who hated watching James Harden play basketball. I really like watching him play this year. What's happening to me? Last category. the favorites. Denver is number 2, and then the Celtics at number 1. The Celtics are 20-0 at home now. This is starting to matter, right? I get to bring in the 86 Celtics. They went 50-1. They went 40-1 that season and got their ass kicked by Portland in the only game. I think now we're in the 20s. I think this is a streak that's going to matter. They're still being really careful. They're resting guys. They have to be careful with Porzingis. They need 9 weeks out of Porzingis. They need to get Horford there. They need to make sure Tatum doesn't play 3,000 minutes. So they're going to do some stuff. But what they've done in the way Missoula has kind of sack guys, put people in, he keeps the infrastructure of whatever the team is, no matter who's in or out. And it's kind of working. Like they rested White and Porzingis yesterday against San Antonio. You're going to beat San Antonio, but the team never, even if guys are missing, the team still feels like it plays the same way. The two big things from a Celtics standpoint from the last 2 weeks that really make me feel like they're getting it is, I mentioned before when Tatum guarded Shea down the stretch in that OKC game. I don't think he would have done that a year ago. I think he wanted to go mano-a-mano with them. I think he's understanding like, hey, in this game, we need my defense and my rebounding as much as my scoring. And then what Jalen did in the Minnesota game last week was awesome. He rebounded, he played defense, he picked his spots. I thought it was one of the best games he's ever played. And I just think this team is really close and really likes each other. And you even see there was an airplane photo the other day. They took this photo of them in the airplane. They're all in there. And it's a tight team. It's going to be interesting to see if they even do anything at the trade deadline, because sometimes when you strike oil with a combination of guys, you don't want to fuck with it at all. I still feel like they need a bigger guard on those Pritchard nights when the opponent is long and tough. But the Celtics team, this is the best chance they've had to win a title since 2009. And I know they're in the finals in 22, but that team, it always felt like it was a year too early for them. This team is excellent. And Porzingis is the X factor because he's the cheat code. He's the superpower of the team. So we'll see if he can stay healthy. Last but not least, Adam Silver. I usually grade him at the end of the power poll. Nothing's really happened with him. Oh, thumbs up, because he gave the Clippers the 2026 All-Star game. Thank you, Adam Silver. You're on my good list this week.